It was just another ordinary Thursday night, when my world quietly began to fall apart. I had come home from work exhausted, hoping for a calm evening with Emily. She greeted me with a tired smile, kissed my cheek, and told me she wasn't feeling well. She said she wanted to shower and head to bed early. Nothing unusual, at least not on the surface. After dinner, she disappeared into the bedroom while I stayed in the living room, half watching TV, half scrolling on my phone. A little after midnight, I walked past the bedroom to grab a glass of water. That's when I noticed it, the faint glow of her phone lighting up the nightstand. At first, I thought nothing of it. Everyone gets late notifications. But then it buzzed again. And again. The pattern was too consistent, too expectant. My curiosity, mixed with unease, got the better of me. I leaned closer. From the corner of my eye, I could see the name flashing on the screen. Daniel. My stomach dropped. I didn't recognize the name, but something about it made my pulse quicken. Friends don't text like that after midnight. Still, I told myself not to overreact. Maybe it was a coworker, maybe someone from her gym. I tried to push the thought aside. But then, as I stood there frozen, another message came through. I couldn't read the full text, only the preview. Can't stop thinking about last night. The word slammed into me like a punch. My hands went cold, my throat tightened, and for a moment I thought I might collapse right there on the floor. I wanted to grab the phone, open it, see everything, but at the same time, I was terrified of confirming what my gut already screamed. I forced myself to back away, heart pounding in my ears. I slipped quietly into the kitchen, gripped the counter, and tried to breathe. 100 thoughts battled in my head. Was I imagining things? Was there some explanation? Or had I just glimpsed the first crack in the life we had built together? When I finally crawled into bed beside her, she stirred slightly and murmured, "Good night." I whispered it back, staring at the ceiling in the dark. Sleep never came, because deep down, I already knew. The next few days felt like I was walking through a fog. I tried to convince myself I had misunderstood that message, that maybe there was a logical explanation. But the image of her phone glowing in the dark kept replaying in my mind like a cruel loop. Emily seemed different. She was polite, even cheerful, but her attention was somewhere else. At breakfast, she scrolled through her phone with a little smile she tried to hide. When I asked who it was, she quickly locked the screen and said, "Oh, just work stuff." The lie was too smooth, too ready. I told myself I needed clarity proof, so I watched more closely. Small things stood out. She started staying late at yoga class, twice a week. She wore perfume to run simple errands. And her laughter, when she answered certain calls, sounded brighter, lighter, like a version of herself I hadn't heard in months. One night, as I pretended to fall asleep on the couch, I heard her keys jingling. I stayed still listening. The front door opened, then closed. Through the window, I caught a glimpse of her walking quickly to the car, checking over her shoulder, as if she didn't want to be seen. My chest tightened. This wasn't paranoia anymore. Something was happening. I grabbed my jacket, slipped outside, and waited until her car disappeared down the street. Then I followed, keeping my headlights low. My palms were sweating, my heartbeat hammering so loudly it drowned out the engine. She drove with purpose, not aimlessly. 15 minutes later, she pulled into a parking lot on the edge of town. It was a small cafe, closed at that hour, its neon sign flickering dimly. And there, under the shadow of the awning, stood a man. He leaned casually against his car, phone in hand, like he'd been waiting. Emily parked, stepped out, and the way his face lit up when he saw her, it told me everything I didn't want to know. They didn't kiss. Not then. But they didn't need to. The way she walked up to him, the way she smiled, the way he placed a hand lightly on her back. It was the kind of intimacy that doesn't belong to strangers or friends. I sat in my car, frozen, every nerve screaming. My world was unraveling, and all I could do was watch. The next morning, I sat across from Emily at the kitchen table, staring at her as she poured coffee into her mug. She looked so normal, hair tied back, sweater slipping off one shoulder, humming softly under her breath. If I hadn't seen what I saw the night before, I might have believed everything was fine. But now, every little detail felt like a mask. I wanted to ask her directly, "Who is he? Why were you there?" But the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I forced a smile, pretended to sip my coffee, and told her I had an early meeting. She kissed my cheek before I left, the same routine as always, but her lips felt colder. All day at work, I couldn't focus. I replayed the scene at that cafe again and again. The way she lit up when she saw him, the way his hand rested on her back. It wasn't just casual. It wasn't innocent. By the time evening came, I had made a decision. I needed proof. Something undeniable. My mind screamed for clarity, for answers. Because as much as it hurt, a small part of me still hoped I was wrong. So I started documenting everything. When she left, I wrote down the time. When she claimed she was at yoga, I checked her location on the family app, except she had recently turned it off. That alone told me more than any conversation could. 2 nights later, she said she was going for groceries. She even waved the shopping list at me as she left. I waited 5 minutes, then followed. This time, I kept more distance. She didn't drive to the supermarket. Instead, she went back to that same cafe parking lot. And there he was again, waiting, just like before. I parked farther away, hidden in the shadows. They talked for a while, leaning in close. He made her laugh, that same carefree laugh I hadn't heard directed at me in months. Then, for the first time, I saw her reach out and touch his arm. Gentle. Familiar. It was such a small gesture, but it broke me in ways I can't explain. Because that was our gesture. That was how she used to comfort me after a long day, how she used to let me know she was there. Now, she was giving it to someone else. I raised my phone, hands trembling, and took a photo. The click of the shutter felt like a betrayal of my own heart. But I knew I had to. Because soon, I would need more than suspicion. I would need the truth carved into stone. After that night, everything between us shifted, though Emily didn't seem to notice. Or maybe she just pretended not to. She moved through our home as if nothing had changed, as if her secret life wasn't already bleeding into ours. But for me, every word, every glance, every small detail carried a new weight. I became an actor in my own house. Smiling when I had to, nodding when she spoke, pretending to be too busy to notice the way she lingered on her phone. Inside, though, I was unraveling. Each message notification that lit up her screen felt like a knife twisting deeper. I started keeping a record. Dates, times, places. Photos of her car parked in that same lot. Notes on her excuses. Late yoga, grocery run, meeting with a friend. All the while, I kept a straight face, hiding the storm raging inside me. One evening, while she was in the shower, I sat at the kitchen table with my phone open to the photos I had taken. My hand hovered over the call button, my best friend's number. I wanted to tell someone, to share this crushing weight. But shame held me back. How could I admit that the woman I loved might already belong to someone else? So I kept it inside. The tension built with each passing day. Emily grew more secretive. She changed her phone's password, something she had never done before. She started dressing differently, taking extra care before leaving the house. Perfume at night, makeup for errands. Each new detail was another brick in the wall she was building between us. And yet, she still acted like the perfect partner when she wanted to. She'd make my favorite dinner, sit beside me on the couch, even rest her head on my shoulder. But I couldn't enjoy any of it anymore. I kept seeing that cafe, that man, the way she smiled at him. One night, she told me she was going for a run. Her tone was casual, almost playful. I nodded, pretending not to care. But as soon as the door closed, I felt my heart start to race. Something told me tonight was different. I slipped out quietly a few minutes later, following her at a distance. The air was cold, the streets quiet. She walked quickly, turning down the path toward the park near our building. And then, just as I feared, he appeared. Out of the shadows, waiting. They didn't see me at first. I watched as she walked straight into his arms. Not a handshake, not a friendly hug. It was closer, deeper. I gripped my fists so tightly my nails dug into my skin. My chest burned, my vision blurred, but I forced myself to stay hidden. Because the moment of truth was coming. And I needed to be ready. I stood there in the shadows, watching her wrapped in another man's arms. Time slowed, each second stretching like an eternity. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it might shatter through my chest. This was no longer suspicion, no longer whispers of doubt. This was the truth, raw and undeniable, staring me in the face. For a moment, I thought about rushing forward, demanding answers, shouting, letting all the rage that had built up inside me explode into the night. But something stopped me. Maybe it was fear of what she'd say. Maybe it was the quiet realization that, deep down, I already knew the answers. So instead, I raised my phone once more and took the photo. The sound of the shutter was soft, but to me, it was deafening. That single image was proof, carved into reality. Proof that the life we'd built was already gone. I stayed there longer than I should have, watching them laugh softly, whispering words I couldn't hear. The kind of intimacy that used to belong to us. And then, as if sensing the weight of my gaze, Emily glanced around. Her eyes didn't land on me, but for one terrifying second, I thought they might. I left before she could see me. The walk back home felt endless. Each step was heavy, my legs moving on autopilot, while my mind spun in circles. Memories of us flooded me. Our first date, our wedding day, the nights we stayed up late dreaming about the future. All of it now tainted, poisoned by the reality of what she had become. When she finally returned home that night, her cheeks flushed, her hair a little messy, she smiled and said, "The run was refreshing." I nodded, pretending to believe her, but inside, I was broken. I lay in bed beside her, staring at the ceiling while she drifted off to sleep. Her breathing was steady, peaceful, like she carried no guilt at all. I wanted to ask her why. I wanted to scream. But I stayed silent. Because sometimes silence says more than words ever could. And in that silence, I realized something. I didn't lose her tonight. I had already lost her long ago. I just hadn't been willing to see it.